Okay, sit down and buckle up. The economics behind vehicle repairs in War Thunder are fundamentally flawed, and we're going to talk about why. I don't normally post content like this, mostly because it comes off as whining, when what I'm really trying to do here is just explain something without necessarily complaining about it. However, today we got a video from Gaijin called Answers from the Developers, where War Thunder's producer, good Mr. Bulanikov, did a bit of a Q&A. It was mostly what I expected, but two things bugged me about it. One was the idea of raising the BR cap for aircraft was basically just written off. But that's a whole other topic, and BR compression is a huge problem. We all know it, so nothing I say could really add to that discussion. The second was that he got asked about repair costs and possibly rebalancing them. The answer was basically just a flat up no, and he went on to confirm again that repair costs are linked to the performance of the vehicle in-game. That is, statistics based on the results of matches with live players. This represents a fundamentally flawed mechanic, both from a game design perspective and from an economic perspective, and I'm going to talk about both. Let me say first, as with any system, there are ways to milk the Silver Lions economy in War Thunder. I've got a couple aircraft I can go to for an hour or two when I need to restock my Lions, and I've got a buddy IRL who's been playing just as long as I have, has never used a premium account or anything, and rarely has problems with Silver Lions. Why? Because he's found a few ways that work for him to stockpile Silver Lions once a month, like as a chore, and then slowly whittle them down while actually playing for fun over a few weeks' time. Save up and spend down. Now, I consider myself an average player, and when I'm playing for fun, I usually break even hour over hour on Silver Lions, but that's in part because I'm somewhat picky about what vehicles I play. For example, I almost never fly aircraft like the B-29 or the Tu-4, even though I like them, because it's simply too expensive economically if I get an afternoon of bad matches. This brings us to the first point, the game design element. Now, I posted about this recently on the Content Creator Discord, and, well, it went over like a lead balloon. They really don't like me much over there. The issue is that, from a player experience perspective, if you reach a win-loss equilibrium in favorable conditions, it shouldn't still be possible to lose money. In this case, Silver Lions. For example, if I go out, I get one kill and die once. 1-to-1 equilibrium. And I have a premium account, and my team wins. The best possible bonuses. I've reached an equilibrium in terms of my contribution to the match, and I have the most favorable possible modifiers. I should still at least break even in Silver Lions 100% of the time. Contributions above and beyond just pulling my weight, having a positive kill-to-death ratio, are what should be rewarded. But instead, what happens is that with some vehicles, you need to have a mission contribution of like 400 or 500%. Give 4 or 5 times more than you get just to break even. And with a lot of other vehicles, you need at least 2-to-1 to break even. That's very poor game design. Now, how they've come to that is basing the repair costs off of player statistics, as mentioned a minute ago, and as confirmed by the developers on multiple occasions. This brings us to the second problem, the core economic flaw of that method, unrelated to the question of game design. Now, I don't blame the game designers for getting some of these sorts of things wrong. It's extremely common, and, the video game industry and game developers in general tend not to have a background in traditional economics. And why should they? I mean, I'm not a plumber. I don't know anything about fixing pipes, right? However, I do have a background in economics. I'm a member of the American Economics Association, and I follow several peer-reviewed economic journals on a regular basis. Studying that stuff academically is important for what I do with my public service career, like outside of my gaming hobby. So I'm coming at this particular point from a purely conceptual angle from that sort of background. The root problem is that if you bump up the repair cost based on players doing well with the vehicle, fewer and fewer people will play the vehicle. It's a similar concept in economics related to supply and demand, but not exactly the same. So, because fewer people are going to play the vehicle, your base of statistics will get smaller and smaller. And the smaller data sample size will just dwindle over time until you're in a situation where the only people who play the vehicle at all, who can afford to play the vehicle, are the ones who are crazy good with it, even if the vehicle itself isn't competitive in the meta or is placed terribly in the BR matchmaking. Exhibit A is the Sagittario 2, and this is the prime reason I haven't done a video review on it, by the way. Now, this isn't a bad plane. It's a bit over-tiered, in my opinion, since I don't think a subsonic gunfighter like this should be routinely peered into fighting supersonic jets with missiles, but the point is that the plane itself isn't bad. In fact, it's pretty good, mainly because of the guns. The problem is, if you fly it out and you don't get at least 4 to 6 kills most of the time, you'll lose money if you get shot down. I'm sorry, but that's absolutely insane to expect a 4-to-1 kill ratio just to break even. So the result of this is that beyond the 10 free repairs you get just for buying the plane new, if somebody flies it and decides that they don't think they're going to reliably go ace every single time they fly the thing, a lot of players are just going to decide the plane isn't worth it and move on to a different one. Thus, the only people who end up flying it long term will be the unicorns, who can go out and score 5 to 10 kills with it every match. This means that the statistics you'll get, the stats that the repair cost is based on, will be the stats of those unicorn players, not the stats of the vehicle itself. The longer this goes on, the worse it'll get, and it would take enormous and dramatic long-term shifts in order to adjust the repair cost even a little in the other direction. Now, this logically brings us to the obvious question of what should the repair cost be based off of, and if you even it out, won't that punish skilled players or something? To answer the first question, I don't know. I wouldn't trust one person, including me, to come up with the answer to a fundamental balance question like that in a game like this. I'd want it studied and discussed in more detail by a group. The second question is, well, we have a reputation for having a pretty toxic community, because anytime someone expresses even the most mild sense of light frustration or dissatisfaction with anything about the game, 20 people jump in to say, "Ugh, sounds like you have a skill issue," instead of offering some help. I hate to break it to you folks. Brace for impact here, because this might hit you like a ton of bricks. But players who aren't in the top 15% of the player base should still be able to have fun with the game. Crazy idea, I know. Player skill and success should absolutely be rewarded, but average performance, not poor performance, average performance shouldn't be punished. And right now, with the current repair system, it is. Average performance should get average results, not a net loss. Now, of course, the bottom 15% of the player base is going to struggle. There's no avoiding that, no matter how well balanced the game systems are. But the core point I'm trying to make here is that a normal player, somebody pulling that 1-to-1 equilibrium, should at least break even when they have the premium bonus and their side wins so that they continue to play the game and can just have some fun. Furthermore, basing the repair costs off of player battle statistics creates a third, I don't want to say problem, but weird situation. Take a look at this. Here are the two B-57s in the American tech tree. The crappier plane costs more to repair. The B-57B comes directly after the B-57A in the tech tree. It has better weapons. It sits at the same BR in the same rank. It is an objectively better vehicle, sitting at the same point in the matchmaking, yet it costs less to repair than the B-57A. When the repair costs are based off of player stats, if you have a vehicle that simply not enough people play, even if it's almost identical to another, you're going to end up with different repair costs. Or if the player base that, plays one vehicle in a different tech tree compared to an identical one, you're going to end up with different results, and that just fundamentally doesn't make sense. The F-86K is another good example, where the plane is identical in different tech trees, but the repair costs are all different. That's weird and really shouldn't be the case. Now, I get that Gaijin has to make money somehow, and it's a free game. That's why I've mentioned explicitly that needing a premium account to break even on those one-to-one results isn't really a problem, and I also get that people need motivation to actually try, which is why I also mentioned needing the victory bonus to break even with those one-to-one results. Again, I don't have all the answers to this. It's a complicated situation, but it's a little annoying that the game's producer and developers aren't even willing to admit the problem, never mind actually take a serious effort to examine it and maybe solve it. I know that I'm probably in the small minority on this, since our player base really does seem to think that if you can't get 8 kills per match, that you have a skill issue and should go broke immediately. In fact, I'm pretty confident that the comments on this video are going to be suitably toxic, but that's fine. I've got a hazmat suit. I really hate to post content like this because it comes off as whining, even though really what I'm just trying to do is explain the concept behind a flawed game mechanic, not just to bitch about it or complain about why I don't like it. I do fine with the Silver Lions income, even though the mechanics behind it are fundamentally broken. It's such a core element to the game, I just felt compelled to talk about it because of that dev Q&A chat earlier today where they casually brushed off the question without even being willing to consider it. As always, thanks for watching.